Good afternoon, this is Jeff with Sewer Tech Northwest. Today we're at property address 15920 Southwest Century Oak Circle here in Tigard. Located at the front of the house, we are just to the left of the doorway. That's what we're looking at right through the little grate here. We have a 4-inch ABS clean out. We're going to insert the camera and check the overall condition and serviceability of the sanitary sewer line. We do have water running. We just zeroed out the foot counter at the bottom of the clean out. The line transitions immediately over to 4-inch cast iron. Got a little bit of scale build up here at the start of it. We'll take a good look at this stuff when we come back at the end. Like right there, you've got big flakes of rust forming in the pipe. And when you get heavy scale buildup, it can often indicate that your line is starting to wear out or rot on you. The other issue it causes, it's extremely rough and jagged and tends to snag debris as it comes down the sewer line. Especially items that really shouldn't be going down the line, paper towels, tampons, flushable wipes, that kind of stuff really hangs up bad. And when you get a blockage in this stuff and it's this rough, the head pressure often won't break it loose on its own because the pipe walls are so rough they grip the debris. Alright, line's transitioning here. It looks like over to transite concrete. It does appear we have a root intrusion coming through the transition joint. You can see that right off to the right side of the screen there. In fact, this actually may be just regular aggregate concrete. Yeah, and it may be going to 6-inch there. We'll get another look at that when we come out. And we've reached the main here. We can get the stinking cobwebs off my camera. That's 60 feet. Alright, we're going to go locate the camera head here while the pipe drains out. Alright, we've located the camera head successfully. The line terminates at the main out here on Century Oak Circle. The line crosses the property, ends up going underneath at least a portion of the driveway before turning and heading out to the street. And the whole concrete pipe here is full of rust too. That cast iron, it looks like it's not in great shape, but all this red stuff down here at the end, that's just rust bits from the pipe itself. And you can always try and descale cast iron. It can be kind of a tricky process when you have a lot of scale. Knocking the scale loose is not the hard part. It's getting all that rust out of the sewer line. It can be a very tricky thing. You can end up with sometimes with a worse situation than you had to start. Yeah, concrete is just loaded with rust. There's a lot of it in there. And the rust, basically what happens over time is the cast iron slowly but surely wears out and the cast iron turns to rust until there's just nothing left anymore. And it's not necessarily right at that point right now, but the rust flakes I'm seeing in there are huge. They're very thick. So the concrete here by and large is in pretty darn good shape. And it looks... We're going to call that 6-inch. It does appear to be belling out there as far as I can tell and changing diameter. But we're going to locate right here with white paint. The concrete beyond this root intrusion area here is still in fairly good condition, has good flow. That portion functions quite nicely still. I've located here, we are in the driveway right now. The line comes up about a foot or so into the driveway area before turning and heading out to the roadway. But anyway, we're into the driveway here about 3 feet or so from the sidewalk. And we are at 5 feet deep. So I've marked that with a white T marking to indicate the transition. So definitely would recommend a repair there. And then, yeah, you can see that the pipe 360 degrees around has heavy scale buildup. Which, once it gets bad enough, I don't typically recommend descaling when it's this rough on the inside. The top of the pipe even looks pitted. It's one thing when it's just the flow line, but when it's the entire circumference of the pipe, I am going to recommend the cast iron be updated here. So we're going into a 4-inch clean out. What I would recommend here, because you've got 4-inch pipe throughout, 4 and 6, this will allow you to do an epoxy liner repair if that's what you decide to do. It's a completely trenchless repair. You don't have to dig for it at all in this case. So I would recommend looking into it. Now you won't have to go cutting into the driveway, and you can update the cast iron all at once. Again, you can try and descale. What you may end up doing, though, is spending $800 to $1,000 descaling cast iron to find out it is pitted and rot, and at the end of its lifespan anyway. But the top of the pipe there is pitted. There's real no rust scale up there. It's that rough and bumpiness to it is pitting cast iron, which it's not completely worn away yet, but it's getting very close. And with the root intrusion repair that's needed already, it would be a completely wasted opportunity here to do all of this stuff at one time. The ideal situation would be to line from the clean out to the main, but the concrete pipe there is still in fairly good condition. Usually the concrete pipe's the first stuff to wear out. Now if you look at the paint markings on the driveway, immediately after that concrete transition in the roots, the line immediately takes a turn and heads back towards the yard. Well, you've got about a 8-foot span of pipe here. I can't really locate because it's going under bushes, so we'll just put a marking where it goes under the bushes and then it pops out the other side in the driveway. Now, right here, I'm getting around 2 foot 7 inches deep. And this line does not tank off very hard. So it's possible my locate in the driveway there is thrown off by a little bit. It's a tricky spot to locate. I'm right up against a bush. But as you see here, the line does not dive terribly hard. So I actually think that depth there of 5 feet is off. I think it's actually shallower than that. We're going to push out here further into the concrete, get to the road to double check that. And now out here, which is just barely into the roadway, I'm getting 6 foot 7. So I'm not sure why there's that huge discrepancy there in depth. I don't know if there's something underground interfering with the locator. But my locator is most accurate when it's not locating through concrete. So use some caution when digging. It might actually be 5 feet deep. It's kind of a hard one to tell here. 'Cause again, you can just visually tell the line is not diving off that hard. It would drop it 4 feet in the span of about 10 feet like that. So use some caution. We'll get some more locates going through the yard here to see if that depth changes anywhere. And if you're going to go the liner route, what I would recommend is taking that liner at least a few feet into the concrete. That way you overlap the joint, and it helps prevent further root intrusion in the future. The last thing I want to see is someone is basically spot repair right up to the concrete transition. I can almost guarantee you within 1 or 2 years you're going to have a root intrusion coming right back to that pipe joint. There's some things you can do to help mitigate that. You can get root barrier that can go around the sewer line. It doesn't guarantee anything. If you take the liner about 3 or 4 feet beyond the transition, it's going to be much less likely roots will re-intrude there because it's essentially a jointless system. So you don't have weak points in the same way that this kind of pipe does for roots to penetrate. Still makes it possible, but it's much less likely. And then we're getting 2 foot 4 inches deep here. So based on how the line is grading, as long as my depths in the yard are accurate, I think when you're under the driveway, you're probably closer to around 3.5 feet deep. Yeah, spots like this, and the scale is just extremely heavy. And when toilet paper tries to get through junk like that, it typically does not go well. It snags up on that junk. And then again, unlike smoother pipe, where the pipe walls don't hold on to the debris and grip it, when you get a clog in a lot of sewer lines, what people don't realize is that, at least in plastic pipe or smoother pipe products, when water starts building up behind the blockage, that head pressure often moves it right on through without you even being aware that there was a blockage there. When you get a blockage like that in cast iron like this, the pipe walls will grip that debris so well that it's far more likely to actually cause a full-on backup to the house than to back up a little bit and then break loose on its own. going to do one more locate marking here at the transition. Looks like someone didn't get all their knockout plate out of the way there. That stuff kind of coming in on the edge is a temporary knockout plate that someone did not get all of it out of there. If you're digging down there, it'd be nice to get that trimmed out of there. But I don't really see any buildup on it. It looks like things are shooting past it with very little issue whatsoever. All right, we're going to go ahead and really out of the sewer line here. All the cast iron is mapped out all the way to the root intrusion in the concrete. I recommend a full update from the ABS transition to cast iron, which is right in front of the clean out all the way out to the paint marking in the driveway, which is just a few feet shy of the sidewalk. That depth there, again, I think by the time you're into the driveway area, you're probably closer to around 3.5 feet or so. It says that the locator keeps saying 5 feet. It just doesn't make much sense to me, given how shallow it is in the yard. I recommend that whole section be updated, and the depth that it's at here, and as close as that line comes to the edge of the driveway, you may be able to do this by digging and not actually have to mess with the concrete driveway at all. As it only gets about maybe 10 inches to a foot up underneath the edge of the driveway before turning and heading out. So I would look into all repair processes, digging and the trenchless ones, see which makes the most sense and most cost effective for you. But after any repair work is done, I highly recommend rescoping the sewer line to check the work. That's the vast majority of sewer problems occur at the time of installation, so it's important to get it rescoped and check the work. As for everything beyond the root intrusion in the concrete, the rest of the concrete pipe appears to be in good shape and has good flow and is functioning properly. Overall, the line is functioning, but it is not functioning as we'd like it to see. You've got heavy rust buildup in the cast iron, and then root intrusions at the transition. The rest of the line appears to be in good shape.